Hi, I'm Chuck Gibson. This is Loveland Beacon Talks. Today, Jill Brinck is back with us. She's Executive Director of Cancer-Free Kids and will share some exciting year-end news about research grant funding awards and other successes in the fight to find better treatments and a cure for childhood cancers. Now, it's my pleasure to welcome Jill back to Loveland Beacon Talks. Jill Brinck, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's good to have you back with Loveland Beacon Talks.
Good to see you again. Thank you for coming in, and always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you. It's great to see you. And you know, we chatted before we went on air right now. But the plan was October, and here we are, December, which is great because really we can wrap up the year for cancer-free kids. And, before we even get into it, so Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to you.
Yeah, well,
happy
thank
holidays.
you. But,
yes.
Well, thank you very much. And hopefully very happy news coming out of Cancer-Free Kids. And this goes back a couple weeks back as well, where you guys were able to announce the awarding of $1.25 million in research grants. So tell me what that's all about. And I know we won't get into the medical terms of some of where these grants are going and what they actually mean, share that story.
We're so excited. I think this was a year where we were finally back operating on all cylinders, post-COVID. Even last year we were still dealing with some of the hangover from the pandemic, and this year was our first year where Night for the Fight was back in its traditional form. Jersey Mike's, they were beside us, bigger than ever. Paxton's, the Wolf Outing, Celebration of Champions, adding, continue to grow, and the 100-mile challenge. So it was just a really exciting year for us. Busy, but
without a doubt,
you can see, the impact of that. The result of that is that we were able to fund more projects than we ever have before, and most of them 17 projects in our New Idea Award
category. That's what I was going to. I'm glad you're starting there because I was going to say New Idea Awards. Yeah. Tell the listeners a little bit. So what's New Idea Awards?
So the New Ideas are really the traditional grant of Cancer-Free Kids. That's what we were built on.
Okay.
And it was that idea that somebody has an idea and they need a little bit of funding to test it, to vet it, to see if it's viable, and to create some proof of concept data so that it can go and get subsequent funding. As you know, we've talked several times that there's very little funding in regards to pediatric cancer research because it's not profitable, but specifically on things that haven't been tried or tested, as you can imagine, we look for things that are high risk, high reward, and those new ideas are really the starting point, is what we're looking for, of things that have not been tried, but ideas that would be transformational to, the type of cancer treatment that they're specifically looking at, and would, ultimately be completely innovative in how we attack a specific type of cancer, or look for those type of things that truly would otherwise go unfunded. And as we've had conversation, within the scientific advisory committee, we have that conversation a lot. That comes up a lot of this is a really great idea that I don't think would get funding through any other type of mechanism. And we love that stuff because, that's what we're here for. That's what we do.
Well, and again, you said high risk, high reward.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want you to take, you don't have to sit there and call them out specifically.
Sure.
But I know over the years, those New Idea grants have produced results.
They have.
I mean, is there something that sticks out for you in the recent, especially for you in the most recent couple of years that you've been here in the role that you are as director? What stands out for you from that?
I think that one of the things that, as you know, there's so much advancement from a technology standpoint as well, in both new ways for radiation treatment, new ways for immunotherapy, where you're taking your own body cells and morphing those mutate those and putting them back in your body to help fight the cancer, so that you're going away from chemotherapy, so that you're not damaging all of the cells in your body, and the proliferation of side effects because of your treatment is much smaller. They've made huge advances of that in the adult space, but not so much in the pediatric space. And so what I've seen since I've been here is a lot of our projects are using or seeing those advancements happening at the adult stage, but then taking them and implementing into pediatrics. And I think actually, the Grant Wolf golf tournament grant is a good example of that. If you saw the mission video this year, they funded with both the golf outings from the past 2 years. We've funded a new radiation called flash therapy at Cincinnati Children's, and it's basically where a single dosage of proton therapy is delivered in microseconds comparative to the 30 minutes that it takes now to deliver that. And what that means is that it significantly reduces the toxins that are delivered to your body, so you can have more of it. So you could have it more of it in an initial round, or should it relapse in the case of Grant's case, he wasn't able to have a second round of it because he was kind of maxed out at radiation. So that type of therapy, in theory, would allow something like that to have just more options.
Maybe avoid that circumstance at the end for Grant.
Exactly.
And that, what you're just describing, for anybody who might not know, that's a big part of the mission for cancer-free kids, is not just the treatment, but, and I know in the words here somewhere it's going to say gentler.
Yes.
And that's a big key. These are children.
Yes.
Absolutely. And then the impact of a difficult treatment, their stresses, and that lends itself to making the situation worse.
I think it's like 2/3 of kids go on to have chronic health conditions because of their treatment. If you look at, age of survival beyond, their survival, their length of life is significantly reduced in most cases, again, because the destruction that those kind of archaic chemotherapy, drugs out there that are, 3 and 4 decades old that they're still using, unfortunately, just ravage these kiddos' body, and it's something they have to deal with forever, unfortunately. So that's ultimately just as much of the goal.
And getting back, so where we started was talking about the New Idea Awards, and that is, again, like I think you said, 17 of the 21 projects awards
this year.
On the grants.
And then we funded an additional 3 Accelerator Awards. So the Accelerator Award was something that we started last year, and what we were seeing was that out of the New Idea Awards, again, still that, fight for funding and how to go about and get that. And so now they had the proof of concept data, but they needed another year or so to go find the next level of funding. And so there was this delay. And so the Accelerator Award was really built and created so that there wasn't that delay between finding that secondary funding, taking the most promising and most exciting grants that have had progress in the new idea space, and accelerating them, like quite literally.
Well, and again, so when reading the information about the Accelerator Awards, one of those is the Wolfpack research from Grant that we were just talking about. So that's something that there's been some success.
Exactly.
What was once a new idea, and now helping, the scientists, doctors, whoever's involved. This one says, a PhD.
They all are.
Not only
people way smarter than me.
I'm not going to try to read exactly what the medicine is, but I'm not even going to try to say his or her name.
Well, but in that one in particular is some exciting work that's been done in DIPG, and so DIPG is a brain cancer that's essentially terminal for kids. Most children die between 9 and 18 months upon diagnosis.
Sadly, here in Cincinnati, if you're paying attention at all to some of the compelling news stories and how how the community rises up. DIPG has had 2 or 3 cases in the last couple of years that we've all become very aware of. So that's a huge.
It is.
And so the accelerator grant, because there's been some success in moving forward on treatment. And I said I'm not going to try to say this PhD's name. I'm lying. I'm going to.
Dr. Lou.
LUO. But Xylee?
Sure.
Anyway, we're going to go with Dr. Lou.
Yes.
But he's had some success. But you guys, through these grants, Cancer Free Kids Accelerator Award is going to help Dr. Lou proceed forward.
Exactly.
And maybe bring about, something that makes a big difference.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
and
huge.
It's exciting. And then we actually had a very kind of non-traditional grant for us this year as well. And we were approached by the head of bone marrow transplant and one of the executive co-directors at Cincinnati Children's, Dr. Stella Davies, about a project that she was working to get off of the ground, and it's the Engraft Learning Network. And so there is this concept of a learning network that there's Children's has had about 16 of these already in place, but not one that's been specific to bone marrow transplant patients and cancer patients in general. So what the goal of this is that they have brought together about 15 different institutions and have a design session where doctors, nurses, patients, their parents come together to say, what is working well from an outcome standpoint? Like, what are the best practices that each institution is using, and what is the positive outcomes that come out of those? And can we collaboratively across all 15? That's
not easy to say.
Test these ideas so that they now they lift and elevate to standard of care, so that not only are these best practices, Children's might have a best practice, and Dayton might have a best practice, and Akron, and there's 15 different institutions that all do things well, but it's not done consistently across the board. So, for example, at Cincinnati Children's, one of the things they were saying, as you can imagine, bone density is really impacted with a bone marrow transplant.
Sure.
And so at Children's, they infuse a concentrated dose of vitamin D prior to the bone marrow transplant that actually carries their vitamin D levels about a month after treatment. And so it really helps with breaks and fractures and just all the things that come with bone density challenges post-treatment. And you would think that makes a lot of sense, to give concentrated doses of vitamin D. The Children's is literally the only hospital in the country that's doing it. So that's one project, one example that they're going to test that, confirm that, create a database that, basically shows proof of concept. And then those best practices will then go to the Children's Oncology Group, which kind of disseminates throughout all of the hospitals in the country these best practices that will really help improve, to your point before, not only just like the drugs, what drugs are most effective, but like therapy in general, holistically for these patients and all of the complications and complexities that come with their treatment. So it was very out of the box for us in regards of, is this something that we would want to fund or not? The dollars that we are giving them are specifically going to help create their data registry, which will be required for the learning network to work.
Right.
And so, but for us, it checked the box on finding gentler treatments for kids with cancer, and really funding things that would otherwise go unfunded, because finding funding for a database is pretty difficult to find.
I would think,
yeah. So we're excited to be a part of it, and we were actually just at Children's this past week, talking to the team and hearing about the process, and they've invited us to be on the calls and to be at the design session, and invited, if we have families that want to participate, us to be a true partner in that as well. So it's non-traditional.
I can see, your eyes, your face lights up when you're talking about that. And I was, the next question that's obvious is like, so what's that like to really, almost be hands-on with a process where there's a grant?
That's different for us, right?
Well, yeah, because
we don't belong in the lab.
The lab medicine stuff, but that's a special. Well, one of the things, though, so people understand too, and you've said this, we've talked about it before, which is you have these decisions where a grant's going. That's not Jill Brinck, okay, guys, come in a room, we're going to draw a straw. This is a board of people who are expert scientists in the field helping decide like the new ideas or the accelerator grants. Yeah. These are well thought out, brain fed, if you don't mind me saying, brain fed decisions. Yeah. And so like you said, that's a little bit out of the box for you, but still, there were people looking at they were looking at the medicine aspects and everything else too.
Right. In our scientific advisory committee, we're so fortunate to have them. It's chaired by Dr. Frank Smith, who used to be the director of oncology at Cincinnati Children's. He's now at MedPace as their SVP of Medical Affairs, I think is his title. But he actually also recruited a doctor named Dr. Greg Riemann. And Dr. Riemann is actually he's the head of the National Cancer Institute's data initiative. So he is a renowned leader when it comes to pediatric oncology. And the beauty of having him is everyone says yes to him. So he picks up the phone and calls these incredibly smart, talented pediatric oncologists to help join our advisory committee. And that is literally who are making the decisions about the investment, which they're independent, so none of them are from Cincinnati Children's or Nationwide Children's, and we think that's a good thing, just to have that non-biased independent review board. So it's been a great transition.
Yeah. Well, and it's listening to the who's, the who's who, so to speak, in the children's oncology. Tells me, and I know we want to talk about this a little bit, somewhat the extent. Cancer Free Kids is here in Loveland. It's based in Loveland. It started in Loveland. And we Lovelanders like to protect it.
Well, and we will always be, homegrown from Loveland.
And you know what?
Such a critical component.
We love that. But at the same time, I sit here, and I know you do, is like, the farther we can extend our reach, but I'm just Chuck,
right.
But we cancer free kids. The farther you can extend your reach, and we talked about this is a template, and seeing it go to work elsewhere and bring in those funding dollars that don't exist or haven't existed in the past for pediatric cancer care.
Right. Yeah, we're excited. So I was sharing with you earlier, it's been a topic of conversation for a long time of, how do we get, frankly, revenue, and how do we get ingrained into the Columbus market, and how do we have a presence there? Because a lot of our funding does go to Nationwide Children's, and they, with OSU, they're climbing the ranks. They're Dr. Kripe, who was truly the doctor, he was at Cincinnati Children's before. Dr. Kripe, who is the leader of oncology at Nationwide Children's, he was the person who worked with Ellen that established our model, right? So lots of ties.
Well, that's a great connection.
Lots of loyalty, right, with Dr. Kripe, but what he's done at Nationwide has been transformational for that organization and gives us so much pride and hope in being a part of that, seeing his success, and we're happy to be a partner with them. But to the point, the community doesn't know us in Columbus because we haven't made an intentional effort to establish ourselves there. And I think we needed to be strategic when to do that. And so over the course of the last 6 months or so, we've really been looking at, is now the time. We have investment, ROI numbers that we can share about the impact that we've made with our funding. And so big news is that we have found a amazing person to be the first person that we are going to hire in Columbus starting at the beginning of the year. And she is a cancer mom. She is a survivor at home, and she's an incredible story. And she is also a phenomenal leader, and I could not be more excited to have her on the team. So,
well, we'll get to talk about that. Maybe as you said earlier, maybe in the spring we can have her share her story with the listeners on Loveland Beacon Talks. You mentioned a whole bunch, like the Wolf Pack, the Paxton's Outing, the 100-mile challenge. I was going to say something else, like the Butterfly Walk. All of these things, and even companies, corporate partners here locally. I mean, I imagine they all stand out. I don't want to put you on the spot and say, tell me about something, but how do you go from there? And we know some of your corporate partners here in Cincinnati. I'm just not going to give them free advertising. You say it, that's okay. Chuck's not going to say that. They can buy some time on it. But that's aside. How do you reach out and grow? And again, you're putting boots on the ground in Columbus. It's coming up. But what about nationwide, especially when you're talking about, is it Dr. Reamer? Is that right?
Dr. Reaman.
Somebody like that, Reaman. Does that, are you getting feedback or are you hearing from places, across the nation now about what's happening here?
We have seen the most growth outside of our region, frankly, through the 100-mile challenge.
I see.
And that has been a great strategy because it's not, a one-time event that you have to go to and show up at. It really is an engagement strategy that, anyone can do anywhere. And so we had many families and teams this year that they would participate, mine included. We've got family all over the country, and we built a team and our whole family did it together. And so we actually had participation from 38 different states this year on that. And so I think Columbus makes sense because we fund it, it's proximity wise, to have a focused effort there. But as far as just continuing to fuel the mission and look at opportunities to go beyond our, direct regional impact. That's been a nice way to do that. And it's brought in a lot of new folks and new community members who are passionate about the cause. I think this year we had 75% of our 1,300 participants in that this year were new to the organization. Wow. So it's, huge. I think that will continue to be, I know, that it will continue to be a focus of ours, and how do we continue to grow it. And again, it's a nice entry point that doesn't require a lot of resources, which we like, but it has great impact. So that's been a fun one.
And what about the kind of feedback you're getting, nationally for, from the people that are in the pediatric oncology? You must be hearing something there as well, I hope.
Yeah,
I'm guessing.
I don't know. I feel that maybe we're flying under the radar as far as getting national recognition for the work. But certainly at, Cincinnati Children's and Nationwide Children's, when I was at Children's just this week, we ran into Dr. Parenthesis, who's the head of oncology, and he was with someone, and he was like, Cancer-Free Kids they're the partner that helps us fuel our innovation. And that was unscripted. And I was kind of like, can I get that on record? But there's no, we're incredibly humbled by the partnership that does. And so I think that recognition is very much like at the institutional level. Outside of that, I'm not sure. I haven't heard, people are coming to us across the board to ask if they can be a part of our process just yet. And that's okay because we're really happy with the relationships that we have. Even
getting them to talk about it or, starting to see treatments that were developed through this, that maybe they learn where the base or the roots of this treatment came from.
And frankly, I think that's it wasn't why we said yes, but we see that as with being a part of the learning network through Engraft, I think there will be an opportunity to get more connected and for people to hear our story, which is, again, not the reason we said yes, but we're happy that that opportunity will exist.
Well, plus you get your little bit of hands-on with that one, so that's good fun.
Yeah.
Next thing coming up, at least in my mind, you tell me if there's something between now and then, but the biggest thing that's coming to my mind, I want you to talk a little bit about Night for the Fight. Yes. That's coming up.
Yeah, we're excited again. We were back in full force this past year, and we had about 800 students overnight in this February of 23. We are planning for at least 1,200 in this coming year. We already have almost $50,000 raised and 400 students signed up, which is, we're kicking butt on fundraising and participation registrations at this point. So, that one is always so humbling when you see students that are just really passionate about the cause. And I gotta tell you, these kids are impressive, and they're doing things this year. We have a partner. One of the students got it's like a parent's friend who owned a kind of skincare wellness business, and they're doing like 40% back is going to cancer-free kids. So it's been really fun to see them get creative and I think more engaged on the fundraising side, which is obviously fueling the mission, but also brings together an audience that I think is oftentimes overlooked, and they have just so much value. And it's awesome to see them shine. Well,
engaging the youth, at the end of the day, they're going to carry this experience with them forward into adulthood and just be the future.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So that's outstanding. So that's going to come up. What? Hopefully you know this one. The date of Night for
the date I do. It's February 24th this year. So it's the end of February, and then that'll roll us right into Jersey Mike's, which is always the last Wednesday in March.
Right.
And so we'll be off and running.
And next year, so we started off with $1.25 million that you were able to grant in research monies. Well, next year it's going to be even better. Yeah,
we've set a goal for 1.5 next year, so we'll be busy. But I continue to see just incredible support from the community and momentum off of what we've built and continue to. And so I feel very confident that we'll get there. And now that I've set it on record, I'll make sure that we get there.
We do have it on record. I'll be talking with you next December and saying, how about that?
That's great.
It'll be more than 1.5.
I love that.
I said that.
I love that.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
So, Jill, thank you.
Thank you
for joining us again. We will get together, if not in 3 months from now, we'll certainly do it every 6 months. It'd be great to be able to catch up quarterly and see how things are going. But as we wrap up this December edition, I want to, again, besides thank you for coming on, wish you and your family a very Merry Christmas, and you and your family and Cancer-Free Kids family a very happy and healthy New Year.
And thanks to you, Chuck, on behalf of all the families we serve, all these kids that are going through a battle they should never have to go through. I can't say thank you enough for this community and how grateful we are. And to your point, we wouldn't exist without our Loveland community. We simply wouldn't exist. And so it's exciting to be able to show progress and continue to deepen that impact. And I hope the community feels proud that it was really this town that got us off the ground and has created this organization. So thank you.
You're welcome. And you know what? On behalf of the citizens of Loveland, you're welcome. But just keep doing what you're doing. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Jill. That was Jill Brinck, Executive Director of Cancer-Free Kids, sharing the story of their $1.25 million in research grant awards this year. I'm Chuck Gibson, saying thanks for listening here on Loveland Beacon. Loveland Beacon Talks is a presentation of Loveland Beacon Digital Media and Gibson Communications, LLC.